So as a historian, there are a few things around street size that are very fascinating. So there is in Paris in the 1848 riots, Paris Commune and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, they had this city program that's called the Haussmannisation, after Haussmann, who basically cut away blocks and made the streets wider so they couldn't be barricaded.
Mm.
And they did that in Berlin as well. For example, what is it called near Schloss Charlottenburg? Bismarckstraße. It's the most insane street. It literally, we did it on the podcast once. We measured it. And it's insane. They took an entire city block from Berlin. And this is not just a house. This is the house, the courtyard, and the back house. They took that away to build just street so that the emperor at the time could pass unaffected from the plebs. So the reason that a lot of the Berlin city streets are wide and wider than in small towns is that a lot of the infrastructure was built afterwards. Berlin, spread out in the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century, and a lot of the streets were already built wider. And now, what you need to know, and that's back to Hermann Knoflacher, the researcher, who was a scholar of Carl von Frisch, evolutionary biologist who discovered the dance of the bees and so on. They did research and found out that humans evolutionarily are made to perceive their environment in walking speed. And so if a street in a rolling car, in a vehicle, gets very wide, we tend to go faster, unconsciously. And if you narrow the road, we unconsciously go very slow. And so, you had this question, why do we still build streets? Because in a very naive fashion, and this is what's still prevailing in Germany, streets are seen as a problem solver when you have congestion. One more lane will fix it, which is proven wrong since decades in research. Everywhere. Everyone who seriously works with traffic and infrastructure knows that it's the opposite. You build one more lane for a few months, it'll go a little faster, and then people realize, there is a niche, you can go a little faster.
It brings
and then
more
it brings back the congestion, and then they will build a new lane, and it's the same thing again. And now, as I said, as a historian, what's fascinating, this approach after the war, autogerechte Stadt, to build a fully car-centric infrastructure. For example, this horrible accident with that concrete truck a few years ago, where a biker got killed, is on one of these stretches of a very wide street that was supposed to be this super highway all in the city center. And these concepts go back to the Nazi era. Like a lot of the concepts were, these mixed neighborhoods were looked at like vermin. It needed to be cleaned out. Like very inhumane concepts of, let's get this orderly. Let's have the machine have priority. And like the entire law in Germany, Straßenverkehrsordnung, stems from that time, is a Nazi approach to how to organize public life in a city mostly. And, this is very underappreciated. And then what I said, the autogerechte Stadt, why did it not go further? The reason is very simple. The cities understood that it's too expensive to even upkeep all this infrastructure. We have Breitenbachplatz in Wilmersdorf, where they're tearing down a whole viaduct because they never continued and finished that highway.
Mm-hmm.
And even now it's, the city doesn't have the money to keep it from falling down. So they have to dismantle it. And already since the 1970s, I think the tipping point where it was the oil crisis, it's clear that the cities don't have the money to upkeep this infrastructure. And so in a way, what was built until then was stopped, and the big projects have been thrown out the window. But this approach of we still have to build more in order to, on the one hand, deal with congestion, and on the other hand, deal with or give the opportunity of further economic growth, because that's the narrative about the A100 and the TVO, we need economic growth and we need more trucks to go through and so on and so forth. When I look at the whole debate and when I just think critically, about why they're doing it, how they're doing it, when there are so many arguments against it, not to mention the climate facts, for instance, because we have the same debate in Berlin about, do we build a Straßenbahn or do we build an underground
U-Bahn, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the street level streetcar is super efficient. It's like 300 people ballpark per vehicle. So you need relatively few drivers. You build it very fast because it just needs the tracks on a street that's already there and a few stations. So it's cheaper, much cheaper, and it goes much faster to build it. And the M10 to Turmstrasse in Moabit, for instance, is a really success. Like they built it.
But it took a while because I lived there and I was thinking, oh my God, how long it takes.
Yeah, it still took a while, but the U-Bahn will take